TED Talks are one of the reasons why I am on YouTube. Apart from watching some of my favorite YouTube channels like Ali Abdaal, Thomas Frank, kurzkesagt, The School of Life, I spend the majority of my time on YouTube watching TED Talks.
Time for TED.
A platform that pulls together a variety of intellectuals and make them share their wonderful ideas about almost every complicated topic that exists in the world.
Yourselves in. We're going to Mars.
I do think there's a good framework for thinking is physics, the sort of first principles reasoning.
That you can motivate yourself by doubting your ideas and embracing the fear of failing to try. And that you need a lot of bad ideas in order to get a few good ones.
If we're distracted in each moment, those moments of distraction and overstimulation build up and accumulate to create a life that feels more distracted and overwhelming, like we don't have a clear direction.
Science, technology, productivity, psychology, self-improvement, and much more.
And to the inspiration.
Thank you.
TED videos can plant the seed of imagination in your brain. They have inspired some of my YouTube videos as well. The only problem is, because of their short length, some of these talks fall short of giving you an in-depth knowledge or the explanation about the given topic. And it is kind of really frustrating. They spark the curiosity in your brain and create the need to go deeper, and then they just leave you wanting for more. That's where TED books can help. TED books are long enough to explore a powerful idea and short enough to read in a single sitting. In this video, I'm gonna talk about 6 TED books that I feel can give you a fresh perspective on creativity, motivation, and our future. I picked these books based on the topics I love to cover on this channel and have divided this video into 3 segments. In the first segment, we will talk about the books on creativity, in the second, human motivation, and in the third, books that best describe humanity's future. The first book, Broken Places and Outer Spaces, Finding Creativity in the Unexpected. This book is a short memoir by an Afrofuturist award-winning science fiction writer, Nnedi Okorafor. In this book, she takes you on a powerful journey from being a star athlete to sudden paralysis to creative awakening. Nnedi Okorafor shows that what we think are our limitations have the potential to become our greatest strengths. As a student, Nnedi was energetic, a star athlete and a budding entomologist. Nothing seemed to stop her from getting what she wanted, except she had a lifelong health condition called scoliosis that causes a deformity in the spinal cord. Now, this health condition should have easily been treated with a simple surgery. The chances of failure were close to none. For her, it was just a small bump in her road. Yet somehow, something goes wrong with the surgery and she gets paralyzed from the waist down. Now, when she comes to know that she is paralyzed and can no longer walk, her entire self-image shatters into pieces. Throughout her life, she carried an energetic, athletic personality that could run for miles without feeling tired. And all of a sudden, she could not even get up or walk. She faces a kind of existential crisis and no longer recognizes herself. This book tracks her own evolution from being a frustrated and helpless girl in a wheelchair to becoming an award-winning science fiction writer. Want to know how was she able to do all of that? Go ahead, read the book. In the book, she lets readers dive deep into her psyche, the way she thinks, and finds inspiration for creating new characters and writing stories. Overall, it is a quick and inspiring read. It contains some interesting thoughts and insights on creativity, but because of the short length of the book, it falls way short of developing any of them in depth. Here is my favorite quote from the book. In science fiction, when something breaks, something greater often emerges from the cracks. This book is for anyone eager to understand how their limitations might actually be used as creative springboard and how can they harness creativity from adversity. This book can teach you how to open up new windows in your mind when you face tough situations or even a life-threatening crisis. If you want to understand creativity in more detail, watch some of my older videos on the topic and read more books that I have mentioned in the description down below. Now let's assume that you understand what creativity is and you just have started being more creative in your life. The only problem is you don't know how to keep your creativity at peak levels all the time. Nowadays, with all of the noise that surrounds us, it is very hard not to get distracted. You know what I mean, right? That's where the next book comes in. The Art of Stillness, Adventures in Going Nowhere by Pico Iyer. Do you love traveling? Most of us do. Do you get bored living in one place for a long time? Of course you do. For the last couple of months, the entire world has gone through a lockdown due to the pandemic. Many people are bored to deaths and just want to travel somewhere to get rid of all the boredom. But here is the radical idea. Sitting still with your mind and thoughts can be more exciting than packing your bags and going on an exotic vacation. You want to know how? That's what this book is all about. Pico Iyer is a renowned travel writer who has journeyed from Easter Island to Ethiopia, Cuba to Kathmandu. Now, why does a lifelong traveler like him think that sitting quietly in a room might be the ultimate adventure? After years of traveling and writing books about it, Pico Iyer realized that he could write books only when he comes back home, sits still and recollects all of his experiences. To transform his traveling experience into a book, he needed to sit down, recollect and organize his thoughts. That's what got him to investigate more about the connection between sitting still and creativity. And the result of his investigation was this book that talks about the importance of meditation and its connection to creativity. This book tells stories of people who have used stillness to become more creative. One such story is of Leonard Cohen, who kept his creativity alive until his death. In 2012, at the age of 77, just 5 years before his death, Leonard Cohen created one of the fastest selling albums in European history, called Old Ideas. He could do it because he regularly practiced Zen meditation. In Leonard Cohen's own words, going nowhere, sitting still and meditating is not about turning your back on the world. It's about stepping away every now and then so that you can see the world more clearly and love it more deeply. This book also talks about how technology has changed our lives and how in this age of constant movement and connectedness, meditating has become a greater necessity than ever before. In the past, there was a time when access to information and being able to move freely from one place to another seemed like a luxury. But now it's the opposite. We have access to more information than we can reasonably use, and we can travel without restrictions almost everywhere around the world. We think that happiness is somewhere out there. If you go on a vacation to some exotic place, we will find it. But this book proposes the idea of not going anywhere, sitting still with your mind and observing your thoughts, to know yourself, to look inwards, because your greatest journey can always be the inner one. Now, my favorite lines from the book. It is an Islamic parable. If you lose your key inside a dark room, you don't go out on the street to search for it just because there is more light on the street. Of course, you will have to search for your keys inside the room even if it is dark. Similarly, the key to real happiness lies within you. You just have to make an effort to discover it, and meditation can help you do that. That's what this book is all about. It talks about the importance of slowing down, meditating and training your mind. However, it does not go beyond that. It talks about the importance of meditation but does not teach you how to meditate and train your mind. If you want to learn that, I recommend you to read these books: The Headspace Guide to Meditation and Mindfulness, Out of Your Mind by Alan Watts, and Zen Mind by Chandru Suzuki. Now, what good can creativity do if you lack motivation in your life? Motivation is the driving force that propels you forward in your life, and that is why it is important to understand how exactly human motivation works. While I was researching on how exactly human motivation works, I came across a small, introductory yet very insightful TED book on human motivation. Payoff: The Hidden Logic That Shapes Our Motivations by Dan Ariely. If there is one person who could tell you what it takes to keep motivating yourself throughout your life, it's Dan Ariely.
Hi, my name is Dan Ariely, and I'm the James B. Duke Professor of Psychology and Behavioral Economics and Motivation. And there's lots of versions of motivations. We can pay people, we can give people compliments, we can give people gifts. How are those motivations different from each other? What gets some people to give up and some people to continue? People who are successful in creating motivation don't think about the meaning of life. They think about something that is shorter term and achievable. When we think about motivation, if we have something that is too long term, it's not motivating. It can't hold our motivation. If we think about something that is just on a daily basis, very easy not to take it into account. What we need is something that is kind of in the middle range. Motivation is one of those topics that everybody can gain, right? It's one of those perpetual energy things. In physics, people have looking for perpetual energy, but in motivation we have it. Imagine two factories. In one of them, people are unhappy. Then they're unhappy and the factory is not very productive. In the other one, people are happy. They're both happier and probably the factory is more efficient and producing more. When we come to understand human motivation and get people to be more motivated, everybody gets to benefit. It's one of those few cases in life where we have win-win-win-win-win situations. So let's try and figure out the motivation equation.
As a teenager, Dan Ariely suffered an accident in which 70% of his body was burned and he had to spend 3 years in the hospital. However, this tragedy could not stop him from becoming a professor of psychology at Duke University, a renowned writer and a TED speaker. It couldn't hinder his ability to grow professionally. He had to endure some serious physical limitations, but he overcame all of them. After getting to know his life story, I realized that this is the person who can teach about motivation, because he has endured a lot of pain and suffering. Only the people who have endured a lot of pain and suffering in their life can teach you about how to keep moving forward in your life no matter what happens. Anyways, apart from the lessons that Dan Ariely learned from his personal experience, this book contains a lot of social experiments that demonstrate what are the factors that either motivate or demotivate you. If you read this book, you can certainly create a list of factors that affect human motivation. This book tries to come up with an equation of human motivation, however in the end fails to be conclusive. It's not really writer's fault, it is very difficult to be conclusive about topics such as human motivation. There are way too many factors involved. I think the author should have added some biological facts to make the book more interesting. Facts related to brain chemicals that get released when you are motivated or demotivated and so on. Overall, it's a good read. If you pick this book up, you won't read this book. This book will read you because it has a lot of information on human behavior, and all of that information is backed by social experiments that Dan and his colleagues conducted. Here are my favorite lines from the book. If you really want to demotivate people, shredding their work and simply ignoring their efforts is the way to go. On the other hand, we can increase motivation simply by acknowledging the efforts of those working with us. Acknowledgement is a kind of human magic, a small human connection, a gift from one person to another that translates into a much larger, more meaningful outcome. Now the third segment, books that can help you understand humanity's future. With all our creativity and motivation to keep moving forward in life, we also need to understand where the human civilization is heading next, so that we can recognize the new opportunities and prepare ourselves for the new challenges that have arisen due to the new technologies of the 21st century. Due to the rapid advancement of technology, we have entered the age where human and technology do not only coexist with each other, but also have started to co-evolve. In his book Hybrid Reality, Thriving in the Emerging Human Technology Civilization, author Parag Khanna calls this age the hybrid age. He defines this period as a new socio-technical era that is unfolding as technologies merge with each other and humans merge with technology, both at the same time. This book talks about the technological breakthroughs that are poised to change the way we live and the way our society functions. In the book's title, it says Thriving in Emerging Human Technology Civilization, but in reality, it does not teach you how to thrive in a rapidly changing technological world. So that's kind of misleading. Sadly, this book does not contain any solutions. It just follows a similar pattern throughout. Like, this is the name of some new technology, this is how it works, and that's how it's gonna affect all of us. That's it. However, if you want to create a list of new emerging technologies that are going to dominate the 21st century and want to understand the basics of how human society functions, give this book a try. Here are my favorite lines from the book. Mastery in leading technology sectors of any era determines who leads in geoeconomics and dominates geopolitics. Technology is the enabler of ambitions. The next one is Save Our Science, How to Inspire a New Generation of Scientists by Anissa Ramirez. About the previous book, I complained that it does not contain solutions to our 21st century problems. But in this book by Anissa Ramirez, you will find lots of solutions on how to improve our education system to inspire innovation, to inspire new generation of scientists. This book is essentially about improving STEM education. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. In the book, author talks about creativity, sparking curiosity in students, effective learning and teaching methods, and much more. This book just has 66 pages. It is a very short book, but within those 66 pages, there is a lot to learn. It addresses the problems and obstacles created by the education systems that are dragging students down, such as standardized testing. Most importantly, those MCQ type tests, in which you either fail or you pass. You don't learn anything new. These kinds of tests are proven to reduce students' interest in studies.
Hi, my name is Anissa Ramirez. Welcome to my lab at Yale University. Today I'd like to talk to you about the weird materials that we use in space, in robots, and in your mouth.
Author Anissa Ramirez herself is a scientist and an innovator and has teaching experience of more than 10 years. She has been a STEM educator for more than a decade. In 2004, she founded Science Saturdays, a famous program of entertaining science lectures for middle school children. And in this book, she shares her expertise in making education more fun and interesting for students. For example, in her class when she teaches chemistry's periodic table, she starts by talking about smartphones that students use so often. She tells them that 64 elements are needed to make a smartphone. Then she explores what is the significance of each element and so on. In this way, she makes the subject more relatable to students. When you relate to something personally, you feel curious about it and pay more attention. She also addresses the negative attitude of students towards some important subjects. For instance, a lot of people hate mathematics, and nowadays it has become a virtue to hate mathematics. People make jokes about failing in maths exams and they wear it like a badge of honor and so on. Nonetheless, it is an important subject. In future, virtually all quality jobs in the global economy would require a certain mathematical and scientific skill. So what explains this negative attitude? It seems Anissa Ramirez has the perfect answer. Teachers fail to make these subjects relatable and interesting. In my school, while teaching mathematics, teachers used to teach me definitions, formulas, and other aspects of subject without telling students what are the real-world applications of those mathematical concepts. And that is why I could not relate to what I was being taught in school. And I used to say something like, if it is not relevant to me, why should I study it? What is the use of all this anyway? And that's the kind of attitude everyone around me adopted. Subjects like mathematics impact our lives on a daily basis. The only problem is that teachers fail to point out that impact. They fail to tell students that this is how scientific concepts govern and impact the world around them. And in conclusion, this book is very insightful and has practical solutions to implement for almost everyone. If you care about the future of education, you must read this book. Normally, you can finish reading this book in an hour or two. Here are my favorite lines from the book. The 21st century requires a new kind of learner, not someone who can simply churn out answers by rote, as has been done in the past, but a student who can think expansively and solve problems resourcefully. The skills of the 21st century need us to create scholars who can link the unlinkable, those who are willing to try many combinations before finding the right answer. My take on science education is that science is not always about finding the exact accurate solution every time. It is about finding a better solution than the previous one. So we need to teach students to build a healthy relationship with failure so that they keep trying and don't give up easily. Always remember, Edison had to try hundreds and hundreds of experiments with a variety of different materials to get the right filament for the light bulb before settling on carbon. Now the next and the last TED book, The Great Questions of Tomorrow. One of the things that I find very irritating about the books that talk about the future is that they are based on assumptions and raise lots and lots of questions without providing any concrete solution. This book starts by saying that it is okay not to know the right answer or the solution, but the process of finding the right solutions starts with asking the right questions. As I said earlier, 21st century technologies have affected the very basic structure of our social fabric. For instance, in the past, we used to derive our identity based on where we lived, the god we worshipped, and the group of people that lived around us. But now we have virtual communities of like-minded people scattered across the globe who have common goals and principles. Our identity is no longer confined or restricted to the geographical borders of our country. The way we humans interact with each other has changed significantly. On the one hand, technology is encouraging humans to be collaborative on a global scale. On the other hand, however, the real intimacy of live human interaction is suffering. People are choosing to live isolated lives and are intentionally staying away from public gatherings and other forms of social interactions. Nowadays we are like, if people around me don't share my beliefs and conform to what I say, I'm gonna stop talking to them and find someone else on the internet who shares my beliefs and conforms to whatever I say. This is just one aspect of many. Technology is disrupting every aspect of our life, from cryptocurrencies to few big corporations controlling most of the world's data. These changes have challenged fundamental concepts such as national identity, human rights, money, and markets. In the middle of all this chaos, our politicians are standing clueless. They don't know how to deal with all of this. From how to effectively regulate cryptocurrencies to finding the answer to who owns the data. Politicians are failing at almost everything, or maybe they just don't want to raise important questions because they have a vested interest in resisting questions. Nonetheless, if you want to be prepared for such a technological disruptions to come, you should give this book a try. From the fundamental questions like why do we live within a society and what is war, to modern concerns such as is access to internet a basic human right? The great questions of tomorrow confronts our approach to the future and forces us to reimagine fundamental aspects of our lives: identity, economics, technology, government, war, and peace. My favorite lines from the book that are attributed to Albert Einstein: if I had an hour to solve a problem and my life depended on it, I would use the first 55 minutes to determine the proper questions to ask. For once I know the proper questions, I could solve the problem in less than 5 minutes. That's it for today, guys. Links to these books are mentioned in the description down below. Be sure to check them out. Do check some of my older videos on history, self-improvement, productivity, and creativity. You will definitely find them interesting. And please don't ever forget to give me your feedback in the comment section. Tell me what do you feel about my videos, where I can improve my content. Say something in the comment section, please. Don't just be a passive subscriber. Be interactive. That would help my channel a lot. That's it for today, guys. See you in the next video.